And Sophia, you'll want to turn on your microphone because we can't hear you yet.
So it's recording, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Sophia Durso, and I'm going to tell you how to build a Doodle Jump game. But my game is called Agent Koala. So if we go here, you can click to where you're from. I myself am from New York City. So this is just my title slide. So what I wanted my program to do was that the user's mouse would determine where the character moves. Only left or right though. When the character touches a platform, it immediately bounces off. And each platform moves down after a bounce at a constant distance. However, later I decided that it would just constantly move down. As the number of bounces increases, the amount of platforms increases until it's 2 per frame. That I also didn't do. It just got really complicated. The quote-unquote camera follows the character, meaning that the character will always be at least in the middle of the screen. The game ends when you fall past the bottom, and I also didn't make that last one. Things that were essential to my game was that the user's mouse would determine the coordinates. The platforms moving down is also important. The camera following the character, and the game ending. The limitations to my program was that since I was in a programming class, I had a date that I had to finish it by. I had to do it with the skills I had, that I had gotten from Codecademy, from the tutorials. I had to have at least one variable, conditional loop, and function, and I had to have an interactive element. So for mine, it was the mouse. The purpose of the game was not to fall past the bottom of the screen and to continue to bounce off of platforms for as long as possible. I incorporated an element in which it had the amount of time that you were going, so you try to stay on there for as long as possible. And so to accomplish not dying, you bounce off the platforms and you don't fall past the bottom of the screen. So here's a picture of what it looks like. You have your platforms, you have your koala, and the parachute. And then the seconds, as you can see, are in the top right of the screen. So before I edited my game, there was no parachute, and there was one main platform on the bottom of the screen, and all the other platforms you wouldn't be actually be able to jump on. So I fixed that, thank God. Used to be a brown bear. Wow. And some of the variables didn't exist, like jump, direction, bouncing, occupied, start, jump height, and Ymax didn't exist. So this is just a screenshot of my algorithm, and then I wrote it out. So what I wanted it to do was just to have the standard width and height of a platform. To create the platforms by using something called a two-dimensional array, and I'll get into that later. To draw the man, and then the platforms would always move down. I would have the platforms drawn already, of course. If the mouse moves, change the coordinates of the man to those coordinates. And there's this thing in Khan Academy, and it already has that set for you, which is Y mouse and X mouse. Those are the two coordinates of the mouse that it has in there. And it was on a new platform to bounce. Some challenges that I had were that my jump function wasn't really a jump function until I fixed that. It was just kind of like a teleportation thing where if you hit a platform, it would move you up to 200 pixels. Actually getting the platforms to be jumpable, like before, as I said, you wouldn't be able to jump off of them. I asked myself how I could get a game over screen because a lot of my peers are doing that, and I guess like peer pressure, but not really. And also something I asked was how could I click to restart the game? So it'd be like kind of a button, but just for the whole thing, and it was a lot easier. And how to keep track of time was important because I felt that before that I didn't really have a point to my game. Some bugs to fix that I still have to fix. I fixed the last one, the game over screen, by doing something with the numbers. It was just really weird. I can get into that later. But now when you randomly click, even though the game isn't over, it'll still like it'll redo the game again. It's really weird. So now I have some screenshots of my code. So I have all my variables, the x coordinates of the platform, the y coordinates, the size of the man, the velocity. For some reason it doesn't work without like side-by-side velocity. It's also something I've figured out. So game over was a false variable, and the end was 450 pixels, and the second end was 451, so this had to do with the game over screen and why it wasn't working. Before, I didn't have N2 before, so every single time that I jumped an odd number of times, the game over screen would have come out. I don't know how I noticed that, but I fixed that. The start in milliseconds was for the timer. The frame rate was how fast it moves, and all those other good things. And then I have my two-dimensional array here. So it has the beginning coordinate of the platform, and then it moves in like compared to that. So I have like 10 platforms, and they're all like within like they all relate to the first platform. I forget the word for that. Anyway. So if you're not on the platform, it just does this thing no matter what. It's kind of like a constant. That's the thing that I don't know why it works. But before this, I made a paddleball game. So the basis for this was a paddleball game, and I had this in it, and it didn't work without it. So I don't know what happened there. If you're on the platform, that's the for loop for bouncing. So yman plus 18, that's the bottom of the man, because like you bounce off your feet. And it's basically saying that if the x-coordinate of the man is between the beginning and the end of the platform, it should bounce. This is the thing in Khan Academy that is the mouse clicked function. So when you click something, it'll restart the game. Moving the platforms down consistently was another for loop. And then this was the for loop for, yeah, I think I had this earlier, for bouncing. But this is just more of it. This is just the colors and the shapes of the man. It's not too difficult. This is just drawing the platform, so it's the colors in it. I made a variable for the platform, so I just put that in there, and then it was fine. And then I made the background and the text size for the text in milliseconds. And then that's the cool thing in Khan Academy that has X-Man is mouse X. So that means that the x-coordinate of the man is equal to the x-coordinate of your mouse. So then you have, to bounce, if you're jumping, it'll bounce a certain height and then start going down. Let's see. This is also earlier, sorry. Getting a little repetitive. this is the game over screen that I pulled up. So if the y-man is equal to the end, then the game over screen will show up in front of everything. Also, the end2 part, which I explained earlier, which is the end is 451 instead of 450. It'll also pull up the game over screen. And if not, then the x-coordinate of the man will just keep moving down one. So it's just like a constant. This is just a picture of the game over screen. And that's a picture of my game, again, like finalized. Looks kind of cool. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but it took a while and I'm kind of proud of it. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening.